So it's noon, Tuesday, October 6th, and with me today, Chad Calise and Michelle Charles. And it looks like we have some people joining us. So we'll get right into it. The first thing I
Cool.
wanted to start with was I got one of these in the mail. You ever seen one of these, Chad? These domain registry?
Never.
Yeah. I just
What
want
are
to
you
mention
talking
it.
about?
Yeah, because these things look so legit, right? And
They
I
do.
know
They really
everyone
do.
gets them. Occasionally we get phone calls or emails about them. And basically, they go on to the public internet and you can look up any domain name, right, Chad, and just find out when it expires. And
Right.
so they have a domain name that we own. They have the expiry date, and they basically position it as if this is where I bought the domain and I need to renew it,
Mhm.
which is not true. And in fact, we pay roughly $12 a year for our domain registry, and they're asking $50 a year to renew it. So, don't fall for these things, because if you fill this stuff out, they will basically get approval to take your domain, put it in
That's
their
true.
database. Now they're charging you $50 a month versus $10 or $12. Sorry, $50 a year
Mhm.
versus $10 or $12 a year. So
Right.
don't fall for it. These are scams. Shred them.
And that's not new. They've been around even before
Yeah.
COVID, and a lot of people pay them, and then they hit you up again the next year. And I've worked with people who have paid those, 2, 3 more times. And the downside, is there any danger in paying it? Not immediately. It doesn't feel like there is a danger immediately.
Mhm.
And so that has not deterred people, right? There's no natural
Yeah, it's just
consequence.
kind of a waste of money, really, in the beginning,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And then who knows? They may sell your information to somebody else saying, here's some suckers. Here, you want to buy my list of suckers,
Yeah.
right? And then it just opens you up to more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, certainly. It's just a waste of money, and it does make things a little more complicated if you're controlling your domain and then you've kind of given it to somebody. And who knows? I don't know what their process is for moving it or taking it away. Um, but they look legitimate. They're not. Don't do it. And if you're paying more than, say, $20 a year for your domain, or if it's not bundled into some service you're getting,
You're
reach
paying too
out to
much.
us.
Yeah.
We can take a look at it and
Yeah.
help you with that. Okay, and then related to that on the security news is there's been a lot of news recently about, or as of I think last night, about Apple's
Yeah.
T2 chip vulnerability. And Chad, I thought you could just speak to that briefly, and maybe I'll pull up a news article while you're doing that.
Sure. It's really a great opportunity to reinforce the conversation that even like remote access and all these things that we take for granted, devices, doesn't matter if it's a laptop or a mobile or whatever, it's not just limited to T2, right? Or any of this hype, because this is hype, right?
Hmm.
We have
Right.
to filter so much hype according to like our threat model, right? If we have a threat model, like if I'm Jeff Bezos, then sure, someone's probably going to go through all this trouble for me. But I'm not Jeff Bezos. So,
Hmm.
an everyday person isn't going to have the same threat model as a Jeff Bezos or someone that has a higher, it's not to say that there aren't people in my neighborhood that wouldn't be on that list. That's
Hmm.
absolutely true. There are people in your neighborhood that might be on that list. It could be, somebody lives next door to you as like a PTA president, for example, or a business leader of a community organization that, a commerce group or something. Anyone that has access to something larger than themselves can be a potential target, right? So that doesn't necessarily have
Yeah.
to be financial resources. It can be any resource, people, or whatever. And so it's just important to be, aware and be mindful that, these articles are being very scientific and meticulous
Hmm.
about revealing and being transparent about that. Now, the odds of something actually, someone actually going to the trouble to, exploit and defeat the security controls that Apple has put into place, that's another conversation.
Yeah. And so I mean, I wouldn't know how to defeat this. And even those that do know how, they have to gain physical access to your computer, or you have to plug something malicious into your computer. And that reminded me, Chad, I haven't thought about this in a while because I haven't traveled in a while. But if you do a search for USB condoms, which, by the way, I think is safe
That's a
to
real
search
thing.
for. We'll find out.
It's a real thing.
I was going to put that term in the invite, in the weekly invite, but it got flagged as potential spam, so I took that word
Yeah,
out.
that's tricky.
But if we
That's
Google
tricky.
this, here's actually, I have some of these here, these power blockers or PortaPow, what are they called? So basically, these are USB. They block data transfer and they only provide power. So if you do need to plug in for juice anywhere outside of your own home, you can get these, and I have these for when I travel. And you can plug in and get power, but it prohibits anything malicious from being transferred to your computer. Does that make sense?
It does.
Did that make sense,
Yeah, it's
Chad?
great. Yeah, I use them. I have a magnetic charger thing that I put into the bottom of my devices, like my mobile, my iPhone, and it has a magnetic charger. So all I have to do is move the cable close to
Oh
it, and
yeah, I've seen
it just
those.
finds it. Yeah, and you can buy those that they only power and don't even do data. Right. I don't remember the last time I actually
What are the name of
plugged my
those,
phone.
Chad? Because those are pretty cool looking.
I
You
can't
remember?
remember. I'll have to look it up later. Yeah,
Okay.
it was a while ago, and they keep getting acquired and rebranded, and so it might not even be called the same thing anymore. But it's just something. I don't know why Apple hasn't gone to a magnetic again, because it was so nice. Like if you have
Yeah.
pets or kids, or but it's one of those things that to Ben's point, it's really, really important. Like if you're, let's pretend that we're bad guys for a second. If we're bad guys and we wanted to, or girls, right? We're criminals and we want to do something. A really great thing to do would be to put some kind of software, something nasty, on a cool looking USB device, and then go to the company that I want to compromise and just sprinkle some of those in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Someone will pick one up. Someone will pick one up and stick it in their device, and then I've got remote access into their office or their home or whatever, right? So there's a lot of things that we just have to kind of think like. I don't want people to think like criminals. That's not the point. It's just we have to sometimes think about, like, if we go camping, Ben and I, we use this analogy a lot. Like if we go camping, we're not going to imagine the worst case scenario, but we probably want to bring some rain gear, right?
Mm-hmm.
We probably want to bring a spare roll of
kit.
TP, first aid kit, like a very basic first aid kit. We may not have to bring like a tourniquet or anything like that, right? Like a heavy duty first aid kit, but we definitely want to have some preparedness.
Depends on how far out in the woods we're going.
It really does. It really depends on a lot of things, right? And businesses have to think that way too. If they're expanding and taking new risks on, they probably need some new tools, right? The tools that they had were great for a short hike, but maybe not a really long hike. So it's important for us to educate each other and keep checking in. Like, hey, don't plug something into your device that you don't trust, right? If you find something on outside, like a USB drive or something, don't plug that into a device. Just leave it on the ground, right? So there's a lot of things that this is a great opportunity to bring up some good practices to help keep everyone safer.
I have the old version here. Today, if I were buying this, I would get the USB-C one, so I could just
sure. Yeah, that's a great
tool. That's just some FYI for everyone who may be reading in the news about the T2 chip. I wouldn't be too concerned about it. Just do your due diligence to protect yourself. Mm-hmm. And I also want to mention,
leave your phone places. That's always a good.
What was that, Chad?
We used to say don't leave your phone anywhere, and now we don't have that many places to leave it. But we're going to have to keep that in mind when the world opens back up again, because we'll probably not be as practiced. It'll be easy for us to forget a device somewhere, for example.
Sorry. Oh, hey, hello. Got a lot of people in the office. Come on in. I'm on the call right now.
Oh, and the white box, I should maybe explain that to some of you if you're looking. And there's sometimes a white box. I don't have control over that. It's a software that is. I'm helping some security researcher friends do some research and gather some information about how apps like Zoom and RingCentral and Google Meet and all these different apps that we use a lot are doing facial recognition lookups on us. And so if that's you see that white box pop up, that's that routine running and learning, and hopefully we'll have some things that come out of that, or some plugins for our browsers, or maybe our operating system, some tools that will help make us more aware of that. So privacy still is on us.
So I want to mention, moving on, Microsoft announced that they're going to be dropping support for Mac OS
right.
10.13 and older on Office 365. So Office 365, which currently runs, I don't know how far back it goes actually. As far
Pretty
as
far.
today, let's see. Yeah. Okay, so Mac OS 10.13 High Sierra is still supported on Microsoft 365 for Mac and Office 2019 for Mac. But in the fall, and they've set a date. Where's the date here? Here, let me look at my notes. Okay, so November 10th. So on November 10th, about a month from today, month and a few days, Mac OS 10.14 Mojave or later is required to receive updates to Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and OneNote. If you continue with an older version of Mac OS, so if you continue running 10.13 or older, 10.12, 10.11, your Office apps will continue to work, but you will no longer receive any updates, including security updates. And Chad, we've talked about this quite a lot. It's important to remain up to date on your applications and your operating system for security reasons. That those security updates are not just something that Apple releases to make people feel good. They're actually bug fixes and security patches. So in combination with that, we have recently been pushing our clients to try to get to at least 10.14. Today, 10.15 would be the operating system we would recommend. And soon we're going to see 10.16. Or actually, I think we're going to see 11, I think is what they're calling it. Big Sur, Mac OS 11. So what we're going to do, next week, we're going to do a more in-depth demo on how you can upgrade your Office. And right now I want to move to VisionBot. And VisionBot is where every one of our clients has access to VisionBot. And VisionBot, you can see the operating systems you're running. And we have a new feature that I want to show you as well. So let me find my mouse.
What? Can you throw that link in the chat?
Oh, yeah.
What? Thank you.
Thanks. Yep. Thanks, Michelle.
Computer. What? No, I'm talking.
Let's see. I'm going to stop sharing here. Sometimes when I'm sharing, I can't find the chat window very easily. Okay, there it is.
Thank you.
And while I'm here, I'll just put in these two links that I referenced, so we have them. Okay. Thanks, guys. Okay, that one, and why not this one? I have not tried this particular product. I can't say for sure what brand name this is, but I'll throw it in here anyway. Okay. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen, so you're not seeing what I'm looking at. But I posted some links in chat, and let me get VisionBot up here. So vision-bot.app is where everyone who has a login can go. And if you don't have a login, contact us so we can get you a login. And let me just get to our demo area. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. I'm logged into VisionBot. This is our demo area. And I'm going to filter by Macs. So I'm not looking at iOS in this case, just the Macs. And I want to remind everyone that if you run a device report, this is the best way to do this. Run a device report, and then you're going to get this Excel sheet or spreadsheet. It's not actually Excel. And you can see the OS, and you can sort by OS. And you can see here, we have some older machines we've kept in here for our demo purposes, 1010, and then we've got some 1014s, and then we got some 1015s. So if we were concerned about Mac OS or Microsoft Office 365 support, everything here would be covered except for this machine here, which is 6 years old and basically would not be getting those patches. So if you run a report and you have anything older than 1014, if you have 1013, 1011, 1010, which I'm surprised to see here, but this is our demo environment, contact us so we can help you get to something closer to 10.14 or 10.15. I don't believe it's worth waiting for Big Sur macOS 11. That hasn't been released yet, and typically it's several months before it's really safe to upgrade in a business environment. So reach out to us if you need help with your upgrades. We'll talk more about that next week in depth. And then what I want to show you here are a couple things. One is I mentioned this before, but we now have endpoint protection. So Malwarebytes, it doesn't show up as an installed app. If I search, well, there's Malwarebytes privacy. That was something we were testing. That is not Malwarebytes. That's a VPN solution. But Malwarebytes itself does not show up as an app. So a lot of these endpoint protection applications do not show up as a running app. So we had to build some smart data to figure out if it's running. So look here, look under security, see if your Macs are encrypted, see if all users have access to decrypt that Mac, all users on the machine, and then see if you have endpoint protection. And if you're missing any one of these, contact us so we can help you sort that out. And the best way to see this is to either go, down the list and just look at each one. We don't yet have Malwarebytes in the report, but we do have encryption status. So if you go back to the report and you look under security, you'll see encrypted. I did not filter iOS devices in this report, so I've got some iOS devices that are encrypted by default, and then it looks like we have some. These are VMs, so those aren't even real. Okay, so the brand new thing I want to show you is this new button called App Report, and this is brand new. Just came out last night. We've been working on it for a while. If you click on this, you're going to see all the software installed at your location, at least when it comes to Adobe, Apple, and Microsoft, the big three. So right now I'm looking at Adobe, and there's a whole bunch here, but if I wanted to just see Photoshop, here it is. We've got some variations of Photoshop. Some people do not have Photoshop installed, some people do, and we've got a couple variations of it here. I could switch to Microsoft, and it looks like we've got Excel, OneNote, Outlook, PowerPoint. So PowerPoint, maybe you're working on a project, you want everyone to be on the same version of PowerPoint. Once again, we have some people who don't have it. Most people are on the latest version, and then we've got a few that are a little behind, the one that's way behind. And the last one is Apple. Keynote. Keynote can be a real problem sometimes because Apple will surprise us with an update. And that update, if people proceed with that update, will often break collaboration online, Keynote collaboration, which works either online through iCloud or online through box.com. It will break. You all have to be pretty much on the same version of Keynote in order to collaborate. So we try very hard to keep people on the same version, but it's a cat and mouse game, and sometimes Apple surprises us and people go ahead and update before we can stop them. So this is just helpful to know at a glance where your team is and whether you want to take steps to get everyone on the same version, or tell people to not upgrade until you can get everyone to a certain version. So this is something that maybe a lot of people thought we had access to, but it was surprisingly difficult to get this information. Like I could go to a machine and I could look here and I could see that Andrew, let's see, if I search for Keynote, let me do Keynote. Search for Keynote, I see he has Keynote 10.1, but the only way to really compare him against anyone else in the same organization would be to go to the next one and look for it, and the next one and look for it. And that was, very time consuming. So now that we have this button, I'm looking forward to having the ability to really sort and view and look into this deeper. And you can sort by the name. You can also sort by someone's device name. You can sort by app name. You can even sort or filter by version. So anything, play around with the sorting, the searching. We're going to keep improving this as we use it. We'd love your feedback. Let's see. I think that is it, other than I wanted to stress once again the importance of macOS upgrades. Reach out to us if you don't have your team on at least 10.14, macOS 10.14. And then I want to mention one other thing. There was a question that came up earlier this week about, should I wait for Apple to release their new Apple Silicon Macs before I buy a new Mac? And we have a K-base that a lot of you probably have not seen called Mac Switching from Intel chips to Apple Silicon. And let me put this in the chat. Here it is. And this, this answers, I hope, all questions that you may have about whether you should wait for the next Mac OS running this new chip, or if you should buy now. And my opinion is, it is so hard to understand what Apple is going to do. I mean, they've said, the company said that it anticipates releasing new Intel-based Macs, the current chip, for roughly 2 years. You do not want to wait 2 years to buy your next Mac. So it's really kind of a gamble. You could wait. You could buy now, and they could release the chip tomorrow that you're waiting on. Chances are they won't. You do typically have, I think it's 14 days. If you buy and Apple does something like releases a new version within 14 days, you can return that, get your money back, and buy that new product. So you do have a little bit of time, but this is a game. This is like trying to time the stock market or winning in
And it's old as
Vegas.
the hills.
Yeah,
pros and cons, right? There's going to be
there are pros and cons.
The cons are going to be, there's going to be inherent issues. It's a first gen tech. It's a first generation technology. And so there's going to be bugs and all kinds of stuff. And there's going to be some people that are going to spend a lot of moments of their lives they're never going to get back helping Apple fix those bugs while they're trying to get their work done, And I'm one who generally, I might buy an Intel or whatever if I need to between now and then. But, those are predictable. There's a lot of knowledge about how those work and the ins and outs. And our team, for example, 20 plus years of experience dealing with the ins and outs of that. And when a new platform comes along, in a lot of ways, sometimes it's reinventing the wheel and starting over from scratch. So you got nothing to lose in buying a Mac in the short term. That's
right. I mean, you raise a really great point, Chad, because I remember the last time Apple did this when they moved from PowerPC to Intel. Those first Intel machines, yes, they were great. Yes, they were fast. And yes, they had serious problems with a lot of Adobe apps. Like Photoshop just wasn't working well on that new chip.
Right.
And there was absolutely nothing. No, Siri, don't search for Photoshop.
It was a huge hassle for a lot of people.
Yeah, and there was nothing we could do. It was just wait for Apple and Adobe to fix this. And in the meantime, people had, Photoshop files that would crash, or they'd lose work on, or our only recommendation was find an old PowerPC Mac, which sometimes was not easy to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully that will not be the case, but that certainly could be the case. And my recommendation is, if you need a Mac, buy a Mac, talk to us. We'll help you get the best one for your team, the best one that Apple makes available. And of course, if Apple's about to have a big announcement coming up next week, we might say, let's wait until we hear what they have to say. But most of the time, it's, if you need one, let's get you one. So that's pretty much it. This is once again, we're trying to keep this to half an hour. Are there any questions, or is there anything, Michelle or Chad, that we want to add or clarify?
No, that's a good start. It's nice to try to keep these short for folks, I think.
Yeah. I think an hour is a little too long. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing, and we'll wrap up, and we'll see you all next week. And next week, we are going to dive a little deeper on the process for upgrading a Mac OS. Because it is, on the one hand, it's simple. On the other hand, it can turn ugly if it's not done correctly. So we want to walk you through the process of how we evaluate if you're ready or not to upgrade to the next Mac OS, and what that means, and how we can work together to make it most efficient with as little downtime as possible.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.